Hello CraftDee family, and welcome to another tutorial by She's So CraftDee. For today's DIY projects, I have selected my favorite home decor projects that you can create with Dollar Tree sun hats. Now you can find these sun hats in the spring and the summer in the Dollar Tree, and they are so much fun and easy to craft with. Now I will include the link to the original full tutorials and the supply list needed to complete them in the description box below. Now before we start, I have to say, hey to all of my subscribers, and if you're a new visitor to my channel today, I hope you consider subscribing as well, and that you are inspired to create some of these crafts for your home, your friends, and your family. So now, let's jump right into the projects. Trimmed mason jars. Now we're going to need 2 of the mason style jars that I got from Walmart, and we'll also be using this sun hat from the Dollar Tree. Now we are going to start with destructing this sun hat. So go ahead and remove any tags and ribbons from the sun hat, including tags on the inside. Now in order to take this apart, we want to find the very end, which is pretty easy, and we're only going to snip just a few of those threads, and then you notice it just easily comes apart. Now we're going to be using this trim to decorate our mason jar for this project. Now I've done a few in advance and I wrapped it around this spool. So go ahead and take your mason jars and remove those lids. Now we're going to start with one, and what we're going to do is we are going to be applying this trim around our jar. Now we are going to start at the very bottom. Just start with a dot of hot glue near the bottom that's even with the bottom edge, and then once that place is started, go ahead and add hot glue along that bottom edge of the jar and wrap your ribbon around. Now you want to be very careful with this. You want to make sure it's nice and even, because this will determine the placement of the remainder of your rows. Now once you're meeting up at the under end, you want to cut your ribbon at least 1/4 of an inch longer to overlap the previous section, and then place it into place. Now this will start your seam on the back. Now for the next row, we are going to do the same thing. We're going to apply a dot of hot glue to hold that trim right in place. Now for this round, what we're going to do is we are going to overlap the previous round by about 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to do this for every round after this. Now you just want to continue wrapping this around your jar. Now we're going to keep wrapping around until we have about 8 rounds. Now I decided to stop at 8 rounds for my jar, but you can go all the way up if you like. Now we're going to repeat this for the second jar as well until we have 2 wrapped jars. Now I love this little peekaboo section at the top. Now for the rings of the jar, we are just going to be spray painting them with some flat black spray paint by Krylon. Now once that does dry, we are going to be adding another piece of that hat trim for the hanger for these jars. Now again, I am just going to apply a dab of hot glue along the threads of the jar and place the ends of the straps right on those threads. Now once that's secure into place, just slip your ring right over there. You want to screw it on, and once you screw that on, it locks that strap into place. Now we're going to repeat this for our other jar, and now we can test these out on our wall hangers. And there they are, perfect fit. So now I've decorated my jars with some of these pearl drop succulents. Now I think that they look amazing. Now this particular look is giving me all those boho vibes, and I love how the sun hat trim looks in these pieces. Now you can certainly add any succulent or plant that you like, just make it your own to match your own home decor and your personal space. Now this project is a pair of ombre display containers. Now we're going to need 2 of these Trifle Bowls from the Dollar Tree, 1 of these sun hats from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to use some wood beads of your choice, and I got these from Walmart last Christmas. So we're going to start off working with our truffle bowls. Now I really didn't want that stand on the bottom part, so I'm going to be cutting that off. And I found that the easy way to remove that is with a wood burning tool. Now these are fairly inexpensive. You can get them on from Amazon for about $15, and it cuts through this plastic like butter. Now once it does cut through, you just take off that piece and there you go. Now there will be a hole in the bottom of the container, but we'll cover that and we can use that stand for another project. So now we've cut the bottom off both of our containers, and I'm going to cover that hole with this piece of craft stick. Now this is one of the large craft sticks that you could get from Lowe's in the large pack that is 98 cents. So I'm just cutting that end of it into a round shape. And that round shape should fit right over that opening in the bottom. So to secure it in place, I am just going to line the inside with a little bit of my wood glue, hot stick wood glue that I have in my glue gun. And I'm putting a generous layer in there and then sitting that wood stick right on top of that glue. And then I'm adding another layer right on top of that just to make sure it's secure into place. So once that first one is done, we're just going to repeat that for our second container. And now both of our containers have the bottoms all sealed in. So now we're going to work on the outside. So remove all of those labels on the outside of your containers. Now I'm going to be covering the outside with this sun hat I got from the Dollar Tree. Now if you just snip just a few threads on the end, it comes right apart. And I did a few in advance and rolled them on this spool. So I'm going to start taking the trim from the sun hat and I'm going to be wrapping it around the bottom edge of our bowl first. So I'm using a dab of hot glue to secure that end in place, and then I'm going to start wrapping it around the edge. Now you do want to add some hot glue along the bottom edge of the bowl as you wrap this around, and you do want to make sure this is as straight as possible, since this will be the starting line of all of your rounds as you go forward. So once you get to the end of that first round, you do want to overlap the other end by about 1/4 inch, and then just place some more of that hot glue in place. Make sure you overlap it and press it securely right on top of that one. Now we're going to start on our next one, and we do want to start at the same place we started before. Just apply that hot glue, and we're going to be overlapping that previous round by about 1/8 of an inch. Now the purpose of this is to avoid any gaps between each one of your rounds, and it does provide a very neat look once you're done. And we're just going to continue this around and join it at the end. Now I'm just going to continue to add layers until my entire bowl is covered all the way up. So once one full bowl is covered, we're going to repeat this for the second one, and here are both of my bowls with the trim right on the top. Now I did want to cover the bottom inside of my bowls so you didn't see that little plug at the bottom. So I have some of this black foam sheet that I got from Joann's a while back. I have a lot of this left over and I love using it to finish off my projects. So I'm just going to trace the outside of each bowl onto this foam sheet. Now once both bowls are traced, I'm just going to cut that out with my scissors, and I want to cut just inside of that trace line, since this piece will be fitting on the inside of each one of the bowls. Now you don't need to hot glue this in place or anything. It does fit snugly into place. You just want to make sure we have a cutout for each one of the bowls. So now that that's done, we're going to add some beads and try to avoid spilling them like I did. Now what we're going to do is flip each one of those bowls over, and we're going to be applying them to the bottom as little feet. But before we add them, we do want to make sure the surface is nice and clean from any hot glue strings or any residue. Now I'm going to be placing my beads around the bowl. I'm going to start at all four corners and then place a bead in between there, just kind of like a clock motion, and you want to place about 8 feet on the bottom. Now to adhere these, I am going to be using my hot glue again, and I want to place it on the whole side of the bead against the tray, and this way this sits nice and even. Now once you complete this all the way around, here is what the little feet will look like on the bowl. I think that this is adorable, and we're just going to repeat this for our other bowl. And now both of our bowls have their little feet and they're ready to go. Now I really love the bowls, how they look now, but I wanted an ombre look, so I'm going to be using this Waverly Antique Wax to achieve this look. So I'm going to be applying this to the bowl with a chip brush, and I want to start at that bottom 2 rows, adding the heaviest layer. Now I'm just going to take it and wisp that wax all the way around those bottom 2 layers. And once you have a good layer on, I'm going back and going over it with a paper towel to kind of blend in that wax to the fibers of that trim. Now once that first layer is done, I'm going to follow up with another lighter layer of that antique wax, and again go around blending it with a paper towel. And you want to repeat this process all the way up the bowl until you achieve your desired ombre look. So now we've done that process for both of our bowls, and this is what our ombre look looks like. And here are my 2 ombre bowls on display, and I really love how these turned out. Now I just filled my containers with a variety of colorful succulents to complement this look. Now the ombre effect really worked well using the antique wax on these, and it was super easy to do. Let me know what you think about this project in the comments below. Now this project is a hanging pocket plant holder. Now I'll be using a white plastic plate that I got for 50 cents at Walmart, but they have these at Dollar Tree in 2 packs. I also will use more of that hat trim, and I'll use about 3/4 inches of a sun hat and some more of that faux leather ribbon or fabric. So I'm going to start with one of the plates, and what I'm going to do is I want to start adding that hat trim right down the center of the plate. Now I'm going to measure a piece that overlaps on each end at least a 1/2 inch to about 1.5 inches, and I'm just going to add a dot of hot glue on each side. Now it's a good idea to use a silicone spatula or silicone fingers to adhere this to the back, because this trim does have tiny little holes in it, and you do want to make sure it's nice and secure. So this was a good idea to use this spatula. Now you just want to continue to add your ribbon all the way down, and we're going to continue adding it the same way we did as our vases, just making sure we overlap that bottom just slightly. And we're going to add a little line of hot glue and place that second row right on top of that bottom edge. And then when it's nice and even, you can secure it around the back with your hot glue and your spatula. Now you want to continue this all the way down until you get to the bottom, and I have the tiniest little gap there. So I'm taking another little piece. I'm going to continue to add my hot glue and just add that strip on top. Now this strip would actually wrap around to the back, and this would secure everything to the bottom so nothing falls out of your pocket holder. So you just add some of that hot glue around that bottom edge of the plate, and then fold it over with that hot glue and your spatula and make sure it secures itself into place. Now I'm going to add another piece just for extra security. I'm just so extra when it comes to glue, you guys. And I just want to make sure everything is secure. So I'm going to add one more piece along that bottom just to make sure everything stays right in place. So now we have this cute little pocket holder, but I wanted to add something extra like a little decorative accent, and this is completely optional. And I'm going to add a few strips in a diagonal pattern. So what I'm going to do is cut a strip and just kind of decide where I want it to lay. I'm going to draw a line with my hot glue and then place that ribbon strip right on top. Now I do want those edges again to overlap to the back and to make sure that they can be secured into place. Now once those are nice and secure, what we want to do is add 3 or 4 more strips, and you can add as many as you like down here until you are happy with it, and this is what it will finally look like when I add those strips. Now to hang this piece, I am going to use my leather trim again, and I'm going to trim it out the same way. I'm going to take my long strip and I'm going to bond the 2 raw pieces together so both sides are leather until I have a piece that's about 12 inches. And then I'm going to loop it at the very top of my plate to hang it. Now once you have your places marked, just go ahead and pin them into place. And what I'm going to do is take my Sharpie and I'm going to go over to the back just to make a dot where those leather straps are located on the front of the plate. Now once you do that, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm just going to kind of twist it where that mark is, and this will make the tiniest little hole because we will be using our tacks to go through there to add our accent. So we want to make sure it goes through the plate without a problem. So we're going to start by adding one of those upholstery tacks at the very end of our leather strap first. And we will be applying that through the hole in the plate. So I'm just testing it out here. So before I adhere it, of course, I want to add some glue to the back of that tack and make sure the tack is secured to the leather. And once that's done, just add a generous amount of that hot glue over the hole that you made in the plate, and then push your tack through that hole onto that glue. You want to do that on both sides. And once those are applied and nice and even, go ahead and put your clips back into place and wait for those to fully dry and make sure they are secure. So now that they are nice and secure, we'll flip it over to the back and we will cut off those nail heads nice and flush with the plate. So now you guys know I love to finish the back of my project, so I'm going to take some craft paper and hot glue to actually put a round of hot glue on the back of the plate, and I will place that thick craft paper right on top. Now once that center part is secure, I'm going to add glue around the remainder of the plate, just making sure that paper is secured within about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of the edge of the plate. I'm going to do this all the way around. And once that glue is nice and dry, we can take our X-Acto knife, and what we're going to do is trim off all of the excess. You want to make sure you don't put a lot of pressure on here. We just want to cut the paper and not our ribbon accent. And then just go around, clean up the edges as needed, and now our pocket planter is ready to decorate. So now I've added my favorite variety of succulents and hung this piece up to display, and I love how it turned out. Now I love all the natural elements in this piece, and this was so easy to make. Now you could even use this for mail, you can use this for craft supplies, or whatever you like. Now there are so many ways to style this piece, and I hope that you guys just have as much fun as I did creating it. 1, 2, or even 3 for your space. Now this project is a basket with handles. Now we're going to need one of these light colored large sun hats from the Dollar Tree, one of these wood circle pieces from Walmart, and it's 97 cents. And we'll also need some faux leather fabric or ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Now the first thing we're going to do is to take our straw hat, we're going to remove the tags and remove the bow that's on top. We're also going to remove that tag from the inside. Now once we do that, we're going to find the end of this trim, and it's right on the edge. Go ahead and clip the first couple of stitches, and you'll notice that it will unravel fairly easily. Now what you'll end up with is with this fun trim, and then we're going to use this later in the project, and I'm going to unwind it until I get a shape that looks like a bowl. So I'm just going to go ahead and clip it off and put those trims to the side. So in order to make our bowl fit the nice shape that we're looking for, that's where this wood piece comes into play. Now my wood piece actually fit a little larger than I anticipated and left this little bubble in the bottom. So what I ended up doing is cutting out a circular shape out of foam board that's about 1 inch smaller than my wood piece. And then I just fit it to the inside. I like the way that this looks, so I'm going to work with this. So I'm just going to cover it with some of this faux wood contact paper that I got from Dollar Tree, and this is just a scrap that I had left over. And I am going to cover my little foam board circle with that piece. Now once it is covered, I'm just going to trim down the edges in a circular pattern, and I just want to trim off those edges. Now I want to go around and I actually want to snip those edges as well, because when we fold this over, we want it to fold over nice and smooth with no creases. Now here it is with all the edges folded in, and I'm going to do a test fit on the inside, and everything looks good. So now I'm just going to take my hot glue, and I'm going to apply a generous amount to the bottom of our foam board circle and press it right down in the center of the basket. Now I'm just going to go around in a circle and pull up those edges so it is nice and secured to the bottom without any air gaps in the bottom of the basket. So now we're going to take care of that loose edge, and I'm just going to trim it down to make it as even as possible with the existing edge. I'm going to dab that cut edge with some hot glue to make sure it doesn't unravel, and smooth it out with my little silicone spatula from Dollar Tree to make sure everything looks nice and neat. So I'm going to set this to the side and start working with my ribbon. Now I have a 24-inch piece of leather scrap that I had on hand, and I'm going to cut it in half to make about a 12-inch piece. Now since my strip has a raw edge on the back, I'm going to glue two pieces together with the back sides together so both sides of my leather strip will be finished. Now Dollar Tree has some leather ribbon in stock if you can find it, and you won't have to go through all these steps, but this is what I had to do for my scrap. So I'm going to fold it in half once again, once it's all glued together, and then we'll end up with about two 6-inch strips. So what I'm going to do is I want to be adding some handles to the side of my basket. So I'm just going to loop it over and then add hot glue under each end of my handle, and I'm going to clip it in place with these Dollar Tree clips just to hold it while the glue dries. And once that first side is done, we're just going to repeat this on the other side. So here are both of my handles all glued into place, and now I want to add some accents to my handles. So what I have are these upholstery tacks. Now you can use Dollar Tree tacks, but I'm using these upholstery tacks that I got from Walmart, and these were 97 cents a pack. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to poke one through the bottom of each handle just to make it look like hardware, and I'm going to poke it through to the inside of the basket. Now I am going to pull it out just a little bit to add a little hot glue between the nail and that leather strapping just to make sure it stays secure into place, and you want to repeat this at all four edges of the ends of those straps. And once that glue does dry, just take some wire clippers and clip off the nail portion on the inside of your basket. And now your basket is all done, everything looks good, and we are ready to decorate. So here is my final project on display, and I think it is super cute. Now I've added some colorful succulents and textured rope balls to my basket for just a pop of color. And I really love these handles too. Now this is great for displaying all kinds of goodies in your home. Now this project is a set of decorative trimmed vases. Now we're going to need a few assorted Dollar Tree vases of your choice, and we're going to use some of that hat trim from one full sun hat. So I'm going to lay out my Surebonder silicone mat so you can see what I'm working on here. And what I did was I disassembled several of these hats in advance, and I wound them on an empty spool. I thought this was such a good texture to work with, so I did several in advance. So we're going to be applying this to our glass jars, and we are going to start along the bottom. Make sure you have a nice fresh cut edge. Apply a dot of hot glue just to secure it to start, and we're going to run a bead of that hot glue around the bottom edge and run that trim around there, making sure the bottom edge of the trim is even with the bottom edge of your vase. Now once you reach the end, you want to overlap by at least 1/4 of an inch, and you want to cut it. Now you could wrap it around in one continuous loop, but wrapping it around in single rounds makes the best look. Trust me, it does look very good when it's done. So now we're going to start with our second round. Cut a fresh edge, add a dot of hot glue, and secure that edge into place. Now you do want to make sure you start and stop at the same location on the back of your vase. Now you do want to add your layer of hot glue along the top edge of your previous row, and you will be running the bottom edge of your new row and attaching it on top. When you reach the end, just apply a little dab of hot glue and secure that end, and just make sure those cut ends are nice and even in place. Now you just want to repeat this all the way up the jar. Now you can continue all the way up the jar or even go halfway here. I thought it looked great as a halfway design too, but I will be covering my entire vase. Now once you reach that very top row, you do want to continue the same way, but this time you're going to put glue along the top edge of the previous row and at the very top edge of your vase, just to make sure both of the edges of your trim are secured into place. Now as you can see here is the entire jar, and here is that seam. You can barely see it. I think this looks so beautiful and high end. So now just repeat this for your second vase. And here are our two vases all covered. Now these were so simple and easy to do, and you could do them on a dime. So now just add your favorite greenery, and I have some super stylish vases that were made for less than $2 each. Now I love that these look so high end, and they look like woven baskets and can be decorated in so many ways. And I think this color and texture is like perfect for spring, boho, and even nautical beach themes too. Let me know in the comments how you would decorate these vases in your home. Now this project is a two-tone woven look container decor. Now we're going to need a couple of different sun hats from the Dollar Tree. And we'll need one of these clear plastic buckets from the Dollar Tree. So we're going to start off with our sun hats, and we're going to be unraveling these, so just find the end and that's where you will start unraveling. Now I have one already in progress, and I'm showing here all you have to do is clip a few threads, and then once you clip those threads you can easily pull the entire sun hat apart and use it as a strip for your project. Now we're just going to do this for two different colors for our project. So I'm going to go ahead and start by laying out my silicone mat, grabbing my bucket, and I've already rolled up my strips onto rolls to easily manage for my project. So I'm going to start with the neutral color, and how we're going to apply this is we're going to start at the bottom of the bucket. Now we just want to apply a dab of hot glue on there to secure that end right along the bottom edge of our bucket. Now to apply it around the edge, we're just going to make sure our hot glue is along the bottom edge of the bucket and lay your stripping all the way around, kind of pulling it taut so it's nice and straight. You want this first row to be very straight. So once we wrap it around and the ends come together, we're going to make sure it overlaps about 1/4 inch and then secure that end in place, overlapping it over the end where you started. So once that first row is done, we're going to continue on to make additional rows. Now for our second row, we definitely want to overlap at about 1/8 inch so we don't have any gaps in our work. Now we're going to continue adding the stripping up about 1/3 of the way up the bucket. Now I found that going up about 1/3 of the way is about 6 rounds of the stripping. Now you can definitely attempt this with using a solid strip without cutting each row, but I found that it goes kind of crooked when you do that, so I love doing it this way because it ends up really nice and even. So now we're going to start adding the stripping along the top of the bucket, making sure you start and stop the same place you did at the bottom of the bucket so that seam will be nice and straight. Now we are going to be covering up the top of the scallops of the bucket, so make sure you apply your hot glue along those edges, and when you start to apply your little stripping from the hat, it definitely covers those scallops and they won't show in the project. Now we're going to continue wrapping this around until we have 6 rounds at the top as well. So now for the middle opening, we are going to put our contrasting color in, and in my case I am using the piece from the black sun hat. Now if you can't find the black sun hat, that's perfectly fine. You can cover this bucket in any color you want to, and if you wanted a black strip and can't find one, you can paint this stripping as well. I've painted it with acrylic paint before and it takes really well. So we're just going to continue to wrap that black stripping around until the entire middle is covered, about 4 or 5 rounds, and make sure that there's no gaps in your project. And now all you have to do is decorate. And here we have our container on display with a few stems of palm that I already had on hand. Now I think that using this as a planter is a really great idea since the inside is waterproof. Now these plants that I used are faux plants, but I simply added some newspaper as filler and I topped it off with some Dollar Tree black rocks. Let me know how you would choose to use this container in your home. Now this project is for decorated pumpkins. Now we're going to need 3 foam craft pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. Now we want to go ahead and grab our pumpkins and remove all of those tags. Now we also want to remove the centers of the pumpkins as well. We're not going to be using those in this project. Now I will be painting the pumpkins to match the decor, so I'm going to be using some white, brown, and some gold color, and I do want to make kind of an ivory color to match the sun hat trim and also the hula skirt trim. Now once we get a color that matches really well, we are going to paint 2 of the pumpkins, and you just want to apply this generously on each one, making sure that you cover all of the orange. Now here are both pumpkins all nice and painted, and now they are ready and they are dry and ready to craft with. So I'm going to lay down my mat because we will start to hot glue now. So the first trim we're going to be using is the sun hat trim. Now before we add our sun hat trim to our pumpkin, we do want to cut out a hole in the middle, and this is how we'll kind of be working our sun hat trim around our pumpkin. We just want to make sure it's wide enough to feed in multiple times. So I'm going to take the end of that sun hat trim and I'm going to use my hot glue. I'm just going to apply some hot glue to the top and inside of that little cutout hole, and I want to start wrapping it all the way around the pumpkin to the other side. Now you want to add hot glue all the way around to make sure it stays secure into place, and then once you get to the other side, what you want to do is apply just a dab of hot glue inside that hole and stick that down in there. You could use a scissors or anything that's small enough to fit in there to tuck it into place. Now we're going to add another strip. We're going to add this crosswise, and we're going to apply it the same way all the way around. We're going to cut that end down, hot glue it in place, and once we wrap it all the way around, we are going to tuck it right in. Now we just want to continue going around, and here are all the layers as I've been going until we are finally done. And here is what it looks like fully covered. Now we're going to take that sun hat trimmed pumpkin, and I wanted to give it a little bit of an ombre look. So I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and give it a little bit of darkness at the very top and then lightness as it goes down. This will create a really unique ombre look. I've used this before in some of my DIYs and I just love this technique. And here is what all of my pumpkins will look like when everything is nice and dry. So now all I have to do is to add the stems to my pumpkins. Now these stems are sold in little bags at the Dollar Tree. I love using these as pumpkin stems. They're perfect. And all you have to do is to stick them in and hot glue them in place on top of each pumpkin. Now once you get them in there, you do want to hot glue around them as well. Now to accent these, I have some greenery on hand, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some greenery and kind of wrap it around that stem. Now this greenery is wired, so it kind of clings to the stem. You don't really have to hot glue it, but I'm going to put one on each pumpkin. Now to get it to go with my fall theme, I have some Dollar Tree leaves that I actually cut up into smaller leaves, and I'm going to hot glue those leaf pieces onto that stem as well to give it that nice warm and cozy fall look. And here are all my pumpkins with that fall leafy look. Now on the bottom of the ombre pumpkin, we have a buildup of that sun hat trim. So I'm going to make a little stand, and all I need is a piece of nautical rope. I'm going to glue it around in a circle, center that circle over that little hump in the bottom, and then add some hot glue on top of that ring, flip it over that center hump and place it in there. Now what this does is create a little stand for your pumpkin and will keep it from rolling over to the side. It works perfectly. And here we have it. These adorable little pumpkins are ready to showcase. Now I love how there's so many ways to decorate these, and you can just let your creativity flow when customizing them. Plus now that they are covered, you could even spray paint them without them melting. Now you all have to let me know what you think about these sweet little pumpkins.
Listen, I hope that you all enjoyed seeing these creations again, or for some of you, for the very first time. I hope that you all are inspired to create your own great home decor using these sun hats as well. Now, if you love DIYs on a budget, please give this video a thumbs up and share this video with your friends. Make sure that you're following She's So CraftDee on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest for the latest news, sneak peeks, and giveaways. Now, if you like videos like these and you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed by clicking that subscribe button below, or just click on my She's So Crafty logo on your screen and then click on the bell. It's absolutely free. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.